It's a great day, educators. Grab your favorite coffee, take a deep breath, and prepare to be catered to. Today, we're going to talk about self-care with Michelle White. Michelle is a self-care blogger and creator of G Michelle, self-care resources. Michelle created G Michelle to offer space for folks to practice self-care regularly, strengthen their self-love, and learn about healthy interpersonal relationships. With extensive experience as a licensed social worker, clinical therapist, and statewide trainer, Michelle has worked closely with people who have survived interpersonal trauma, domestic violence, and child abuse. With G Michelle, she hopes to offer shame-free support, healing-centered resources, and trauma-informed tools for each person on their journey to becoming the best version of themselves in their relationships. Michelle works full-time as a professional trainer and project manager with the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence in Atlanta, Georgia. Educators, let's welcome Michelle White to the show. Hi, Michelle. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Yes.
Wonderful. I'm really glad to talk to you today.
Me too. Educators, I had the pleasure of connecting with Michelle only about a few weeks ago in the Honeybee Natural Group, which is hosted by Aisha Gaines. And I saw her information to us about self-care, and I began to look on her website and her social media, and I was like, yes, she's a great person to share with you guys to help you add self-care to your, basically add you to your schedule. So, Michelle, tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm so glad we got to meet through that particular network. Honeybee is awesome.
Yes.
Yes, we love it. We love the connection. I am a social worker by trade. And through my own field, I learned a lot about what does it mean to take care of myself because I was taking care of others. And I kind of got started with really being more intentional about self-care when I noticed myself being absolutely exhausted through my particular positions, working in domestic violence and interpersonal trauma and child abuse. And they're not easy. That's not easy work to do, for sure. Right. And I wasn't taking care of myself the way I needed to. I thought I was okay not going to the doctor and not getting enough sleep and not eating appropriately. We all know those are not the things you're supposed to do when you're in a helping field. And it took some time and some reflection, some therapy, mental health care for me to prioritize myself again. And I also noticed this through the survivors I was working with as well, that they were also having trouble taking care of themselves through their healing process. And so through G Michelle Self-Care Resources, I wanted to have a really special focus on self-care, where we're looking into having a healthy and safe relationship with yourself in addition to others. Because when you have a healthy relationship with yourself, you show up a lot differently in your other relationships, whether in your intimate partnerships, with your friendships, your family relationships, and in your professional life. So that's definitely kind of the story of how self-care resources got started.
Yes, sounds good. I like how you say a healthy and safe relationship with first yourself.
That's right.
Because I think a lot of times we focus on having that with others, but how can you do that if you don't have it with yourself first? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what is your definition of self-care?
Sure. To me, self-care means having the intentional practice of not only identifying, but also caring for what you need when you need it. So being able to understand what it is that you need, what's coming up for you, and finding, again, those safe and healthy ways to fulfill your needs. I don't think there's one way to practice self-care. I think there's a lot of different ways that folks can experience and feel fulfilled. by
Mhm.
self-care, but typically you're looking at fulfilling the needs of your emotional self, physical, social, spiritual, and your mental health.
It amazes me how sometimes I hear most people when you ask them about self-care and what are you doing for yourself, and a lot of responses you get is like, okay, oh, I went and got a mani and pedi, I went to
Mhm.
the hair salon, and I'm
Mhm.
like, that's not really self-care. I you know,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like, okay, what are you doing for your mental stability? What are you doing for your emotions? Because that plays a lot on the things we do in our life. That plays a lot on our physical
sure.
well-being. It's a full circle of things that should be incorporated into self-care.
Sure. I like to say that there's like a whole umbrella of self-care, right? There's
Mm,
so many different things that go into it.
yeah.
There's, I think you can get a manicure or take a bubble bath or any of those things to take care of your physical self. But are you also checking in with what your boundary setting looks like? Are you making sure you have time to manage your anxiety? Are you noticing your signs of depression? I think it all fits under there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and and definitely recognizing, am I meeting all of my needs, not just my need to make sure my toes are done,
Right.
right? It's making sure to understand and take time to identify all of those different needs.
Right. I agree. Yes. So, being that our audience is educators, how important,
Yes.
yes, and we look at educators as mentors, as teachers, as coaches, as basically
Hmm.
anyone that's providing information to others, instructing them, providing them with tools. So how important is self-care to educators?
I'm so glad that you kind of fit all of that into one, because when I think of educators or the people who educate others, I
Yes.
think there's so much that goes into it that's way more than just teaching someone from even just an academic perspective.
Right.
I think our educators are our tools. Like, they are our people who help us succeed and help us create a successful and sustainable future for ourselves. And without our educators, we're stuck. I mean, we are truly stuck, just as a generation of people. And I know that's a big statement, but it's a true statement.
Yeah, it
We
is.
need our educators. And we have to recognize that because educators do more than educating, they are also our counselors, they
Yes.
are social workers, and you don't need an official title for that.
Right.
There's so much that our educators do to make sure that the people they are teaching have also a sustainable life. And they're tasked with so much. I mean, we look at just, our recent news and everything like that. Educators are protectors. They're
Hmm.
also there to help us with our safety. They're helping folks cope with very difficult situations outside of academic life. So I'm just glad you recognize, and we are both recognizing, that there's so much that goes into being a person who teaches others. And
Right.
so when we look at self-care for educators, we want to recognize that there's so much that comes up in their day-to-day work that's more than just being in a classroom,
Mhm.
that not only can they take care of themselves, but are they given room and opportunity and space to take care of themselves, right?
Mm.
Are they not overwhelmed by their schedules? Are their classes not overcrowded? Are they not, having a lot of expectations from the state or from funders or from school administrators to have certain test scores? I'm just thinking of a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think self-care for educators has to be twofold, knowing that they are able to have self-care, but then also given the space, time, and opportunity to practice that self-care.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. I'm glad you mentioned about basically the demands of the workplace.
Absolutely.
It's only so much that they can, like you say, do the time and space to really have that self-care. And we find that a lot of educators, especially teachers, in the academic field, they spend a lot of time at the school, at the workplace.
That's right.
And
Hmm.
so being able to allow them that time and that space to take a few moments to maybe have a designated room or something where they can go and take a
Hmm.
few minutes to, even if they just want to sit there and just deep breathe. Whatever it is that,
Absolutely.
like you said, offering them that time and that space, because it's a constant pull of them in so many different directions, like you said, beyond just teaching.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I like to emphasize too that when we think about self care for professionals, there's sometimes uh, folks will overstate, well, you need to just take care of yourself. Then you would be able to manage your work better. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
there's always a personal responsibility to how you show up to work. But if you
Right.
are being demanded to do things outside of your typical requirements on a regular basis, that's more than just a self-care need. So I like to just give a shout out to organizations, to the folks who take care of our educators or are
Yes.
tasked to take care of our educators. Please notice that, and notice that that's coming up in your conversations with educators, that it's more than just their personal responsibility if they're being overworked and not given enough time. But some ideas for self-care for educators, especially if you spend a lot of time at the school, it's just as you explained. If you're able to have breaks during the day, maximize those breaks. If you need to stretch your legs, if you need to do a stretch in class,
Mhm.
if you can utilize your phone. I know I've been told that people my age are millennials. So we're on our phones a lot, but our phones can also be great self-care resources just in
Right.
themselves. If you need to look at some affirmations, listen to a playlist that feels peaceful to you or relaxing to you. If there's anything on your phone that feels like that, if you're able to read, we know our educators love to read, but you sometimes don't have any time.
Yeah.
It's about making the most of the opportunities that you do have while you are at school, to take care of yourself in ways that feel good for you.
Right. Right. I agree. Okay. So share with the audience how you practice self care and how often do you practice self care?
Yes. So my self care practice changes with what's going on with me. I like to say that my self care practice adapts with me. Um, and lately, I've been spending a lot of time taking care of my physical self. I spent a long period of my time working on my inner and mental self. And
Mhm.
now I'm kind of reversing it to make sure my exterior matches the interior.
Awesome.
So I've been,
Yeah.
yes. So I'm definitely trying to focus more on nutrition, making sure that I'm eating right, getting enough sleep, having time for myself. I'm around a lot of people in my personal and professional life. So I want to make sure I'm having time to myself and for myself. And definitely doing some physical self care by trying to get up in the morning consistently and exercising and setting boundaries with others, especially when folks are in need of your time.
Mhm.
For me, I'm trying my best to learn how to maximize time, stick to deadlines, help others stick to deadlines, especially when it impacts my work. So that's kind of what my self care looks like this week. And it can totally change next week. It depends what's going on.
Right, right. And that's the thing
Hmm.
about it is being flexible in your self-care. It, like you say,
Hmm.
assessing what's going on for that particular day, for that particular week or month,
Hmm.
and just like you said, letting it adapt accordingly. So yes, I agree with that. I like how you
Hmm.
said making sure that your physical is in alignment with what's inside. That's
Hmm.
definitely important, and vice versa as well. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Hmm.
So, what advice would you give to educators listening to this show? I heard you touch on it a little earlier, but I often hear a lot of educators say, "Okay, I don't have the time."
Hmm.
So, what would be something that you can share with them to say, "Hey, this is how you place yourself on your schedule. This is some simple tools you can do that impact you greatly." What would you share with them?
Hmm. Absolutely. Again, I'm like holding my hands out because I'm holding that space for educators who say I don't have time, because that's very real and that shouldn't be minimized. I'm on social media, I'm on the internet a lot, seeing what folks are saying about self care. And there seems to kind of be a little bit of a commercialized look at self care, that it has to mean spending a great amount of time doing something luxurious for yourself. And that's what self care should be. And I disagree. Self care should be what you can do, what
Mhm.
you're able to do, and what works for you. So if you only have 5 minutes in between your commute from going from work to home, how can you maximize that 5 minutes so it feels peaceful or relaxed for you? If you know you get home and you don't have a lot of time between having to start dinner and take care of your children, what can you do during making dinner to make that an even more relaxing or engaged experience for you? It's really about just looking at your life in a realistic way and making adaptations or additions that don't feel stressful or overwhelming.
Right.
You got to do what works for you, and that can look like a lot of different ways. So for educators who are interested in starting self-care, or they've tried it and they're like, you know what, forget it, I'm tired of this, I want you to restart with a different attitude around it. Again, start with thinking about, what are my needs? What am I noticing I'm not getting enough of? Am I feeling a little bit more anxious? Am I feeling really tired, borderline fatigued when I come home from work? Start with just identifying your needs, and then where can I make adaptations, not complete changes, right? That's very different.
Right.
But where can I make adaptations to my current life so that this is manageable? Take really small steps. Again, I love using my commute time because I'm somebody who's always on the go. I'm not even at home. I'm in a hotel room and I have a training to do the next day. But how can I take care of this time? What can I do in this time? So during your commute time, are there inspirational podcasts like this one that you can listen to,
Yes.
On your way to work? Do you have a favorite scent that helps you feel calm? Can you put that scent, in your bag or, in your laptop bag, and you can smell it throughout the day? It's just about making really small changes. Notice if those changes work. I have one blog article on gmichelle.com that talks about how to review your self-care plan and adapt it, because self-care should change as you do. And if you're changing and your self-care plan is not, it may not be efficient for where you are now. You may be next week, you may have totally different needs. So just stay present with yourself. Be mindful of what's working and what's not. And if you had a self-care plan that you were so attached to and so excited about, and you weren't able to do it, I want to invite you to not give yourself a hard time about that, because it's not adding to you feeling better about yourself. And that's even a reminder to myself, because I know that's something I'm always working on. How can I quiet those negative thoughts? Because they creep up, and they creep up fast.
Oh, yes.
And they like to keep us company. Okay. So you know what? You don't have to visit us today. No, thank you. I'm good. And just really try and just try to have some shame-free discussions with yourself about taking care of yourself.
Okay. Michelle, do you have any upcoming events that you would like to share with the listeners?
Sure. What I would love to share is stay connected. We're in the beginning stages of G. Michelle Self-Care Resources, and I've got some wonderful things in my mind and some stuff coming on the horizon. But for my folks in Atlanta, I'll be at the Mental Health Academy as one of the vendors there in Conyers, Georgia next week, Saturday, September 8th. Feel free to stop by our booth. I'll be sharing copies of my self-care journal. It's called Self-Restore. It's a guided self-care journal that's broken down into manageable journal prompts for you to reflect on what's most meaningful to you, how to increase your own love of self, review and reflect on your relationships, and how to instill hope within yourself. It's the first thing coming out of G. Michelle in terms of a product, and it's also available on Amazon. And Amazon Prime is wonderful with the shipping, so you'll get it right away. So that's what we got going so far. Stay tuned and stay connected.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. How can our listeners connect with you?
Yeah, so you can definitely check out our website, www.g.michelle.com. I'm also on Instagram really actively at @GMichelle. So feel free to follow us. You can follow the blog. Also, we have a bunch of resources. I'm updating it every week with different resources like podcasts, books, free downloads. recommended videos. I've got all kinds of good stuff on the website. If you don't know where to start with your self-care plan or you need some new ideas, that's exactly what gmichelle.com is for. So feel free to check it out.
Thank you, Michelle, for educating us on self-care today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Educators, I hope you received some information today about self-care that will help you grow through life. Remember to subscribe to the Educated podcast and invite other educators to do so as well.
Hello, listeners. My name's Tasman Ivy, and I'm one of the producers here at Built for More FM, and we would love to hear from you. We've created a 2-minute survey that allows us to get feedback from you on what kinds of topics you think we need to feature in our future episodes, as well as any other people that we absolutely need to interview on one of our podcasts. You can fill this out, and it only takes 2 minutes of your time. If you'll be so kind, please visit builtformore.fm/survey. That's builtformore.fm/survey. This helps us tremendously in our future planning of programming. We've got shows in development, but we always want to make sure that we're in service to you guys, our audience. Thanks so much for listening, and we know you're going to make it a great day.